Alright, this time I'm gonna start this little timer here. So my brothers come along. Oh, that's right, about the bottle. I did that, and now about this same time, I believe we lived in Long Beach, California at this point in time. We moved back and forth between California and Phoenix, and then Kingman and Phoenix, and well, I guess that's really it. Kingman in California and Phoenix. Well, and then Trinidad, of course, for the 2 years when I was little. When my dad got back, he couldn't make the kind of money he was making overseas, and he got used to that. He always did later talk about that, that it was like he never could get past that point in his life, that that was the good times and it couldn't get any better, and of course it could have. He just was such an alcoholic, and anyway. So when my brothers are 6 months old, I was 4 years old. My mom and dad got divorced. My dad was cheating on my mom with Vicky Faye, who I wonder if maybe I'll bleep that out. But anyway, with Vicky, and the funny thing was, in the 80s, then he came to marry Vicky, and that's something that'll come up later because she became a part of my life too, and I love Vicky. The thing aside, having an affair with my father when my father was married to my mother back in the 60s, when she had 3 babies, that was wrong. I don't know. People make mistakes, and gee, I certainly have, and I've certainly asked for a second chance, or even a third chance that I'll probably never receive. But so, all right, my mom and dad get divorced. I can remember, and this is one of my very first childhood memories is of, I can see we're in I guess it's an apartment, or maybe like a little duplex thing or something, and the front door is like right here, and I can see the couch against this wall, and my great-grandmother, we called her Mom. Mom was sitting on the couch holding this yardstick, and I believe my brothers were back in the room over to the right, the bedroom, which would have been the same one where I propped up the bottles, did that whole thing. And here comes my dad, and he comes in, just starts beating the hell out of my mom. And I can remember my great-grandmother hitting my dad with that yardstick and saying, "Buddy, you leave her alone, you leave her alone." That's one of my earliest childhood memories. I really, at that point, my mom met a man named Dave Kinney. I still to this day admire Dave. Dave's a good man. I called him Daddy at the time. After a while, when they were married, I started calling him Daddy. Dave loved my mom. My mom, however, used Dave. She'll tell you today that she used him. She needed somebody to take care of her. We lived in California, and when they met over there in California, and I can actually remember, it probably was around Christmas time, and I mentioned this to my mom a few weeks back, and she said my memory of it wasn't quite right as far as the location. But I remember being in an apartment and playing with my Hot Wheels set on the living room floor, and knock on the door. And Dave goes and answers the door, and it's my dad is standing at the door, and my dad just starts hitting Dave. Just beats the shit out of him, puts him in the hospital. Dave, to this day, has a real nasty scar I think it's on his nose here, or maybe on his, maybe up here, where you can actually see where it was like stitched together. It's real ugly. But I mean, that's, again, that's my dad. You know, that's my memory of my dad, and so we, my mom and dad get divorced. Again, well, they got married twice. So somewhere in there, they were apart for like 6 weeks or 2 months or something. They got remarried, and it lasted for like 2 weeks. They got divorced again, and that was it. And but they always loved each other. They always said that they loved each other. It was funny. Even later, when I went and lived with my dad, which I'll get into later, if I got mad at my mom, no matter what my mom ever did to my dad, suing him for child support and everything, man, you couldn't talk bad about my mom around my dad. It would beat your ass. But anyway, let's see what the hell we're doing on time here. So my dad is in California. We go to Arizona. My grandfather was a pretty successful insurance agent in Phoenix, State Farm insurance agent. He was a Mason, active with the Masons and in the Shriners. He was a past potentate of the El Zariba Temple in Phoenix, Arizona. Very successful, respected, and deservedly so gentleman. So anyway, he offered to get Dave a job and help him out. And so he did, got Dave a job with Arizona Public Service, who Dave recently retired with. And actually now he's a consultant with them, making big bucks in retirement. It's a great thing for him. How wonderful it worked out for him the way it did. Because he certainly is a good man. And my mom and Dave were married for 5 years. And we moved into the house that I ended up growing up in Phoenix, over on Montecito Avenue. And those were pretty good times, that 5 years, I guess. I really don't have bad memories of that. I started school, of course. I do recall that this is, I'll get to throw some, I guess these are anecdotal stories or whatever you call them. Where I went to school, Squaw Peak Grade School, coincidentally, Alice Cooper went to Squaw Peak Grade School, and I can't think of what his name was, but he was in the first 8th grade graduating class out of Squaw Peak, along with my mother. My mother was in the first graduating class out of Squaw Peak. I was the first student to go to Squaw Peak who had a parent that graduated from there. And the principal, I think his name was Mr. Mendenhall, he had been the principal when my mom went there, and at the year that I started, okay, time to stop the video.